The area is very, very interesting. I will use these acronyms. So autonomous vehicles are no more, just in fiction. They are already on the road. May not be, Chandni Chowk of Delhi, but maybe some more well-disciplined roads with better traffic. Maybe nowadays, even in India, Mahindra and many other companies, they are working to design this kind of. For example, Mobileye is working with Mahindra to design autonomous driving cars for India. Okay, so now there are two broad approaches for designing autonomous driving vehicles. One is that cloud-based. See, the idea is your vehicle is on the road, right? Now, where do you do the processing? That means where does the intelligence for driving? That is, that is the question. So either you can do it locally, that means within the car itself, okay, or you can do it in your data centers. That's called cloud. Okay, that means some intelligent algorithm. Either you can run some intelligent algorithm has to run, maybe some AI algorithm. Now you can make it run locally. That means you keep some computing system in your car, and that will run the. Or you can keep it that you can make that those AI algorithms run in the data center. So first approach is called cloud-based. So cars share sensor data with the cloud, and cloud performs complex processing and advises the car on how to navigate the environment. So the benefit of doing it in the data center is that it has practically unlimited storage and processing power. Okay, it has aggregate view of city or traffic. It can tell, okay, there is accident, don't go there. There is congestion, don't go there, take this route. You just sit and relax, right? If you see the advertisements of autonomous driving cars, the best they do is, okay, you can sit in the car and take selfies. So this is the whole use of years of research on autonomous driving cars so that you can take a selfie. Anyway, but jokes apart, but the point is, car itself will take the decision for you. Another approach is keep whatever compute engine you need in the car itself. So here, for example, you can see this is the MIT car. You have to have so many things. Of course, this is somewhat older, right? It's not very new, but it's somewhat older. So that's why they had to do so many sensors. Your car will look little strange. Of course, these sensors will always be there. The processing is done by some computers inside the car. Okay, so now you tell me which approach is better, cloud-based or local processing based. What are the pros and cons in your mind? What do you think? Should I have that kind of, or should I have this kind of approach? Second, why?
So, like considering Indian scenario for cloud-based, we need a stable internet connection. Like we need to rely on the network connectivity, and that is actually a trouble in India. So second will be local processing will be definitely better.
What if the internet becomes poor? What will happen if internet becomes poor?
So like communication will be lost with it, like because all the processing is happening in the cloud.
Okay, so what?
So like we will not get any response. Like whatever the data we have provided, no decision will be made based on that. So will be like that.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, and finally accident will happen, right? So at least I will never sit in a car which is driven by somebody in cloud. Maybe if it is all the processing is done locally, it will be good. What are the security challenges in it? Okay, so suppose communication is perfect. Okay, I take it from me that communication is all perfect. And there is no delay, right? You send it and it comes back in the right time. What are the other challenges from security perspective? Let us see if somebody can think.
Sir, since it's a remotely controlled, it's like a remote pilot vehicle only kind of thing, sir.
Very good.
It's driven on ground, but it is now remotely driven. Okay. So can be used to any extent, sir. Any extent it can be used. If you're asking from security, sir, I mean, it's a threat in terms of
what? So give me some example. Give me some example. What kind of bad things can be done if somebody is driving remote?
If the GPS is completely cut off, sir, then then there might be a scenario that we don't have any coordinates only. So accident might happen, and or some other person can take over. In this case, if the GPS complete system is monitored by US, so there is a scenario that US can completely take over the vehicles which are running on their system and use it for other purposes.
You're right, yeah. So now you can see there's nobody will trust, right? So for example, if I'm from one company and you are my competitor, you can make my car fail by making it into accident. Suppose I think when around 2018 or 19, I think 2018, Uber's self-driving car got into accident and then they had to do so much legal work because they did not get approval for some time or whatever. So now we can see even one accident can bring down your reputation a lot, and then the competitor wins. So any malicious person will like to do that, right? So that's why transmission failure can happen, security issues can happen. So that's why cloud can never control car steering. Even though you can rely on cloud for doing other things, at least nobody will rely on cloud to control your steering. At least I will never rely, because communication failure can happen, delay can happen. Okay. Now, local processing is somewhat challenging, but that's all you have. I mean, it's highly reliable and secure. A reliable processing, of course, it has its own threats and challenges, but still relatively speaking, it is reliable and secure. It is required for real-time action because car steering has to be controlled in a real-time manner, right? Especially if you're driving at very, very fast speed, or from any angle, not just humans or other vehicles, but even animals can come. So you need local processing. So you focus on local processing basically. Okay. Now there are 6 levels of automation which is defined. We don't have to memorize it just for sake of completeness. Increasing degrees of automation can be done. So just one more point I wanted to say, like, I mean, even from defense perspective, these autonomous land vehicles are highly important because there are many areas where human patrolling is not possible. So on those terrains, it is good if we can do autonomous driving cars. They can, or vehicles, they can track if somebody is trying to intrude, right? Like border areas, Himalayas, or Kashmir. Okay, so here marketing companies, they call it eyes off, mind off, and driver off. So for example, let me read the last one. So auto driving system takes full control of auto driving tasks under all driving conditions that can be managed by human driver. Whereas in the previous ones, driver is still involved. Either you begin with just driver assistance. Here, driver can sit back and relax like a cargo. Driver is also a cargo now. Okay, so let me first discuss about the sensors. Then I will come to the processing of this information. See, our goal is just deep learning on computer vision data. But as I will show you here, computer vision is not sufficient. You need other sensors also. Okay, we all can relate, right? It's not that, of course, we primarily use our vision, but we also have ears, and we also have some sixth sense. We have also a lot of experience which is integrated into our vision. It is not pure vision. We have a lot of sixth sense integrated into our vision. So, but for computer, we have to do it all explicitly. So here we have multiple sensors. Let us first discuss what is their utility. So here we have camera. So whatever we get from camera, that's the people of computer vision. But we also have this radar. So here is the example of sensor placement on BMW car. Here we have one camera, radar. Then we have radar and lidar, audio detector, and GPS. Okay, so comparison of radar and lidar. So radar is very cheap, but it has very low resolution. And because it is cheap, it is used most widely. It works well in extreme weather. Lidar is very, very expensive, and it offers you much higher resolution. Right? So this you can see it offers so much high resolution. You can find out what are other objects in your vicinity, buildings, and so other cars. It is extremely accurate. Use extremely accurate depth information, and you get 360-degree visibility, which you need because anybody can come from behind and get hurt you. Now, camera, we all know it's very cheap. It provides huge amount of data, so we need deep learning techniques. And because we use computer vision to drive, that's why if we use computer vision for this autonomous driving car, that's very natural. However, it is poor at depth estimation. Normal cameras are poor at depth estimation. There are also stereo cameras which can do depth estimation. And it is not good in extreme weather. For example, I will not tell you which university, but one of the Indian universities, I met one professor from there. So they said that I think Mahindra had given them an autonomous driving car. And only between 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. it works well, because computer vision works well only during this, time when it's very, sun is at the top and you have very good visibility. In the evenings or even early mornings, it doesn't work well because computer vision is not sufficient to track that. So you can understand the degree to which computer vision is insufficient. Okay. Maybe there may be more advanced cameras. They may be also very costly. Okay, so here is the comparison of sensors. So we have LiDAR. So what is acuity? Acuity is the ability to distinguish, right? The clarity of the vision you can get. That means to what degree you can, or maybe some way of defining acuity. That means how clearly you can see. And this is the range. That means how far. I think the unit is not specified here. Maybe feet or meters. Now, what is passive visual and what is active visual? Passive visual means you are just observing without throwing any extra light on the scene. That's called passive visual. And active visual means you are seeing, but you are also throwing some light on the scene. If you throw some extra light on the scene, your visibility is much better. Just like when we take photo, there's a flash. So that's like we are throwing some light on the scene. But you can turn off that light, and it will become passive visual. Any questions till this point? Okay. So here you can see passive visual is good if these clear, well-lit conditions. You can get, see very far, and lidar, they are in between range. Sonar is here. Now, when there is clear, dark conditions, that means it is clear weather but dark conditions, like night. But there is no rain, there is no snow, there is no fog. So here, passive visual degrades a lot. Okay, from here it comes here. And if there is heavy rain, snow, or fog, then passive visual degrades further, and even lidar degrades. So, but sonar and radar, they are not affected by the weather because they are sending some signals and they are receiving those signals back. That's how they operate. Okay, so here are these figure. I forgot the name of this. There's a specific name which is called for these charts. So here, on many metrics, we are showing which sensor is good, which sensor is not good. So if for a particular metric we reach here the number 5, that means it's very good. That means we are giving it marks how good it is. If it is 0, that means it is very poor. For example, lidar sensors on sensor side, lidar is very poor. It gets 0 marks, right? Whereas on sensor cost also it gets poor marks because it's very costly. For proximity detection, it is very poor, but sonar is very good for proximity detection. It gets 5 marks. For range, it is very poor. Sonar is not. That means sonar can just do collision avoidance because its range is very poor. All it can do is collision avoidance. Resolution is very poor, but it can work very well in the dark, in the night, in the bright, in the snow, fog. Its sensor size is also very small. It's also very cheap. Whereas radar, its sensor cost is good, sensor size is good. It can detect speed. Here it can't detect speed, right? Sonar can't detect speed. So radar can detect speed. Anybody remembers how?
Doppler effect.
Yes, you're right. Doppler effect can detect speed. Okay. It provides color contrast. No, the radar cannot provide color contrast. For color contrast, you need passive visual. Why do we need color contrast? Why do we need color contrast? All you need to do is to detect object, whether it is car, blue car or red car. How does it matter? How does it matter whether it is white cow or black cow or green cow or a pedestrian wearing black shirt or white shirt? How does it matter? autonomous driving. Shrikant, anyone please guess? No one can guess. I'm surprised.
So traffic.
What traffic? We are on the road. So what do you mean by traffic?
So traffic lights.
Yeah, traffic light. Everybody forgot. You have to distinguish between red light or green light or yellow light. For that, you need color. That's the most important thing in driving. Please don't forget that. Okay, so you need color contrast. So you need passive visual. Okay, and resolution is good. Range is good. Proximity detection is not so good. Sensor cost is cheap. Sensor size is small. Like cameras are very small. Okay, so here you can see the properties of different sensors. Again, you don't have to memorize, but you can just see there. Now, state of art of this is slightly older presentation. Actually, I think I made it in 2018 from a paper. So maybe at this point of time, they've been a more advanced levels, but this is as of 2018. So here, some of the companies, they are at lower levels, some of them are at higher level. And those who are at higher level, they have to use LiDAR. Okay, and there is a startup I know, like in Bhopal. So their claim is that in Indian condition, LiDAR is not possible, as I will show in the next slide, because LiDAR is very, very costly. So their goal is that just by using computer vision and this sonar and LiDAR, they want to do autonomous driving. So I'm little surprised. How can they do higher levels of autonomous driving without LiDAR? That's a challenge. So let us see challenges of LiDAR. LiDAR is a remote sensing device used to examine surroundings of the vehicle at high precision by sending light beams. And this light beam is not necessarily those in the vision frequency that could be outside the vision frequency. So now one more thing you see is that if you are standing there as a pedestrian and so many light beams are getting sent on, every vehicle is sending some light beam on you. It's really not good for health. Right? So you can see that although we are thinking, okay, autonomous driving will happen, but we have to use so many extra sensors. Right? So what is the health effect on the, for example, the police person, the traffic police person? Everybody is sending light beams on him. Okay, so that's or other pedestrians who are waiting for a bus. So these are the challenges we have to see. That's why that may be one more limitation of LiDAR. So although it provides a very high precision, however, it's very costly. So here I saw the cost of one of the LiDAR. Maybe there will be cheaper LiDAR. I don't know, but at least at that time it is this cost, which is costlier than the car because a BMW car will cost you $40,000. So if LiDAR is costlier than that, maybe hardly few people will be able to use it. Maybe for stunt or for show you can use it, but it will not commercialize. So the goal is to avoid using LiDAR. Rather, just use vision-based ADVs using cameras and radars, which are much cheaper. This is the focus of companies like Tesla, Mobileye, and especially in countries like India, where people can't afford very costly cars. The taxes on the cars are very high, and so on. There, it is important to have the costs as low as possible. So I hope you're getting the overall picture. Okay, now we'll discuss architectural implications of autonomous driving. Before I do that, let me ask a quick question. So, Argya, please tell me why do we need this sonar? What are the pluses and minuses of sonar? Argya? Argya Vishwas, are you there? Okay. Because actually, okay, now rest of the presentation is based on this paper. What are the architectural implications of autonomous driving? So, our overall goal. See, so again, let me give you a quick overview first. See, as you can understand, making a full autonomous driving car will be a big task. Here we are simplifying it. Here we are just seeing the computer science related challenges to that. Okay, mechanical challenges will be there. Maybe mechanical people they will do it, but our goal is to simplify it for academic purpose. And there are some actually books which I have. If you want, I can share with you. That's just what I expressed with this. Now we have sensors like cameras, scanners, radars. Using this sensor, our goal is to recognize the scene, do the path planning. Path planning can be done in the cloud and control the vehicle. Okay, for operating the vehicle for the planned paths. So this is the simplified pipeline we are assuming. Here we get an image. We do detection, then we do tracking. I will explain what they are in a moment. And we also do localization. And then we fuse these decisions. And based on that, we decide whether to steer left, steer right, or stay straight, and whether to slow down or speed up. So two big decisions we have to make: accelerate and steering. That means speed and steering. And of course, this mission planning can be done in the cloud, and then we take the action. Okay. Now, explain what is detection. So first of all, there is something called image classification. Image classification tells you whether this image has, suppose, a dog or a cat or a human or not. That means it just answers the question whether it has or not. Suppose you have an image which has many objects like dog, cat, horse, airplane. So if you ask the question whether it has an airplane, the image classification will reply yes or no. Okay, but it does not tell you where in the image it has that. That means it does not draw a bounding box around that object. Okay. So okay, so that is called image classification. But if you come to object detection, so detection is different from classification. In the detection, you tell, our goal is to find out where in the image it has it. So we find out using this bounding box. Okay, so our goal is not just to find out whether it has a car, but where in the image it has a car. So for that we draw a bounding box. Fine. Is it clear what is object detection? Okay, and then we have the tracker. Tracker means, see, so if you just have an image, you can do object detection. But suppose you have a video where you have a series of frames. So in the first frame, you detect where the car is, and then you do tracking of the car. So here you can see the arrows, right? This green arrow, this red arrow, this yellow arrow. Okay, so here you can see the tracking. That means this car is moving like this, in this direction. This car is moving in this direction. So that is called tracking. Okay, that means after detection, you have detected the object in the first frame, and in the rest of the frames, you are just tracking the same object. Is it fine? That's called tracking. And localization means you find out the key points. For example, here you have so many stars. So by seeing them, you localize yourself. That means where am I? Suppose I see that there is a post office, there is a big tree, there is a traffic signal. So that means I have reached the Nehru Junction, something like that. That means you see your surroundings and find out where you are. That's called localization.